The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't like a slap. It was the smallest sound. But inside that bungalow in Lagos, it sounded like thunder. Madam Janet stumbled backward on the dusty interlocking tiles, her old knees failing her. Her palms scraped the ground. Her wrapper shifted. Her breath caught in her throat. And then, Samson laughed. Not a full laugh. Not even a happy one. Just that short, cruel laugh people make when they want you to know they're on the wrong side and they don't care. Madam Janet looked up at him, eyes wet, mouth shaking. "Samson," she whispered, like saying his name might wake the good boy she used to know. But Samson didn't move. He stood there in his expensive navy suit, arms folded, leaning slightly like a man watching a funny show. Like his mother's pain was entertainment. Gabriella's face was burning with anger. She was in a glittering green gown that looked like it came straight from a boutique in Lekki. Her black wig sat perfect on her shoulders. Gold jewelry flashed when she pointed at the old woman like she was pointing at dirt. "You witch old woman," Gabriella shouted. "Get out of my house. Even your son is tired of you. Since you entered this house, it has been bad luck. Now he has lost his job." Madam Janet blinked fast, tears rolling down anyway. "I didn't cause." "Shut up," Gabriella cut in, voice sharp like broken glass. "You came here to destroy our peace. You think we don't know? You village people, you carry bad market inside your body." Madam Janet tried to stand, holding her waist. She shook. She was 78. Her skin was dark and dry from years of work. Her grey hair was scattered around her face like she had been fighting wind all night. And then she saw Gabriella's leg lift again. Madam Janet raised her hands quickly. A fear reflex. Like a child. "Please, don't," she begged. Gabriella's foot moved forward. Samson didn't stop her. He didn't even blink. That was when Madam Janet understood something that made her chest burn. This wasn't just Gabriella. This was her son too. And the worst part, her son was enjoying it. Madam Janet's eyes locked on Samson's face. Not the face of the little boy who used to run to her after school. Not the face of the teenager who used to sit beside her at night when power went off. This was a different face. A face with pride. A face with coldness. A face she didn't recognize. She swallowed hard. Then she did something nobody expected. She pushed herself up, slowly, painful, shaky, but steady. She dusted her wrapper with trembling fingers. Her breathing was loud. Her eyes were still wet, but her voice changed. Not loud, just deep, just final. She looked at Samson and said, "If all I ever wanted for you was a better life, if I truly gave up everything to raise you alone after your father died, and this is how you pay me back." She paused, her lips quivered. Then she finished, "My God will judge between me and you." The room went quiet for 1 second. Even Gabriella paused. Samson's smirk reduced a little. Not because he felt sorry. More like he was annoyed his mother was still talking. Madam Janet bent to pick her old bag, but the bag wasn't there. Gabriella had already flung it outside like trash. So Madam Janet turned, walked out of the living room, and stepped onto the veranda. The bright Lagos sun hit her face. The world outside looked normal. Cars passing, a neighbor's generator humming, a distant street hawker calling out something about pure water. Normal. But Madam Janet felt like the ground under her life had opened. She reached the door. Behind her, Gabriella shouted again, "If you like, go and report to your God. Leave this house and never come back. You have finished your son." Madam Janet didn't answer. She didn't turn back. Because if she turned back, she might cry louder. And she didn't want them to enjoy that too. So she walked out. One step, another step. Her legs felt weak, but she kept moving. Because sometimes, when people break your heart, you don't have strength to argue. You only have strength to leave. Earlier that morning, the truth is, that kick didn't start that day. It started years ago. It started the day Samson forgot where he came from. Madam Janet used to live in a small village outside Osun State, close enough to hear crickets at night, far enough that Lagos felt like a different planet. Her husband, Pa Adekunle, died when Samson was still young. Just one moment, one sickness, one hospital bill that swallowed everything. Madam Janet became mother and father overnight. She sold pepper, she sold gari, she sold palm oil. Sometimes she washed other people's clothes until her fingers hurt. She didn't complain, not because she didn't feel pain, but because she had a child, one child, her only son, Samson. When Samson was smart in school, Madam Janet doubled her hustle. She would wake up before sunrise, tie her wrapper, and go to the market. She would come back late, tired, but smiling. "Eat, my son," she would say, pushing food toward him even when she herself was hungry. When Samson got admission to study computer science, she cried from joy and fear, because how would she pay? But she still paid. She borrowed. She begged. She worked. She believed one thing: if my son becomes something, my suffering will end. And it did. For a while, Samson became a software engineer in Lagos. He got a job with a big company in Ikeja. His salary changed his life fast. He rented a clean apartment. He bought nice clothes. He even started speaking English in a way that made village people feel small. Still, Madam Janet was proud, because that was her son. Then Samson met Gabriella. Gabriella was beautiful, sharp, loud, the kind of woman that walked into a place and everyone noticed. She came from a family that acted like their blood was superior. She liked fancy restaurants in Victoria Island. She liked perfumes that smelled like money. She liked pictures, social media, soft life. At first, Samson was just excited. He thought he had won the world. He didn't notice the little signs. How Gabriella would roll her eyes when Madam Janet called. How she would laugh at the village accent. How she would say things like, "Your mother is too local. She will embarrass us." Samson didn't correct her. He would just laugh awkwardly. "Don't mind her," he would tell his mother. "She's just joking." But it wasn't a joke. Over time, Gabriella's jokes became rules. No more long calls with Madam Janet. No more sending money without telling Gabriella. No more visits to the village. Then one day, Samson got married to Gabriella in Lagos. A big wedding, bright lights, expensive hall. Madam Janet came from the village wearing her best ankara, smiling like a woman who had finally reached the finish line. But Gabriella's friends whispered about her. "See her wrapper. Why did they allow her sit close? Is that his mother?" Ah, Madam Janet heard some of it. She smiled anyway, because she didn't come for them. She came for her son. After the wedding, Madam Janet went back to the village. She thought everything was fine. She thought Samson would still remember her. But Samson began to change faster. 3 weeks before the kick, the job loss happened. Samson returned home one evening, face dark, tie loose, eyes empty. He didn't greet properly. He didn't even eat. Gabriella noticed immediately. "What is wrong with you?" she asked, already annoyed. Samson sat heavily on the sofa. They let some of us go." "What?" Gabriella's voice went up. "You mean you lost your job?" "It's not my fault," Samson said quickly. "There was a company issue. Restructuring." Gabriella stood, pacing like a lioness. "So what are we going to do now? Rent in this place is not small. My hair alone is not small." Samson rubbed his face. "I will get another job. I'm a top engineer." Gabriella scoffed. "Top engineer that got sent home like a boy." Samson looked at her. "Please, not today." Gabriella leaned closer. "You know what? I have been warning you. Since your mother started coming around, everything has been going bad." Samson frowned. "My mother? How is that possible?" Gabriella's eyes narrowed. "You don't know? That old woman carries village problem. Since she came last month, you lost a contract. Then your office started issues. Now you've lost your job. Coincidence?" Samson shook his head. "Don't say that." But Gabriella didn't stop. Day by day, she poisoned his mind softly, like slow drip. "Your mother is a burden. She wants to control you. She thinks you owe her. If you don't handle her, she will ruin this marriage." Samson began to believe it, not fully, but enough. And that's how Madam Janet became the enemy in her own son's house. On the morning of the kick, Madam Janet came to Lagos because she had heard rumors. A neighbor from the village had come back from Lagos and said, "Mama Janet, your son is not looking fine. Oh, people say he lost job." Madam Janet couldn't sleep after that, so she borrowed small transport money, tied her wrapper, held her old bag, and entered a bus to Lagos. She arrived at their modern bungalow area somewhere around the edge of Lekki, where the roads were neat and the houses had tall gates. When she got there, she didn't even knock like a stranger. She knocked like a mother, and when Gabriella opened the door and saw her, Gabriella's face dropped. "Oh God," Gabriella muttered under her breath. Madam Janet smiled, trying to warm the air. "My daughter, good morning. I came to see you people. I heard Samson." Gabriella didn't let her finish. "Come inside," she said, but her voice had no welcome. Madam Janet stepped in and noticed the tension immediately. The house was too quiet. No music, no laughter. Even the air conditioner sounded angry. She walked into the living room and saw Samson sitting there, arms folded, staring at his phone like it was the only thing that still respected him. Madam Janet rushed to him. "My son. Samson, are you okay?" Samson looked up slowly. He didn't stand. He didn't hug her. He just said, "What are you doing here?" That question hit her like a slap. Madam Janet froze. I came because I heard you lost your job," she said softly. "I was worried. I wanted to see you. Maybe I can—" Gabriella laughed loudly. "You? What can you do?" she mocked. "You want to start doing village solution here?" Madam Janet turned to her, trying to stay calm. "Gabriella, please, don't talk like that. I'm his mother." Gabriella stepped closer. "Yes, you're his mother. So you should go back to your village and stay there. Stop coming here to pour your bad luck on us." Madam Janet's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She looked at Samson. Surely he would speak now. Surely he would say, "Stop, that's my mother." But Samson only folded his arms tighter, and that silence gave Gabriella power. That was when Gabriella called her a witch. That was when she blamed her. That was when she kicked her. And Samson laughed. Back to the present. Madam Janet walked out of the compound slowly, her old bag heavy on her shoulder. The gate closed behind her with a dull metal sound. She stood on the roadside and looked around like someone who didn't know where to go. Cars passed fast. People moved fast. Lagos didn't care. Her eyes stung. She wanted to call someone. But who? The friends she used to have were in the village. The relatives, most were struggling too. She touched her phone. It was old and scratched. She had one important contact saved there. A number she looked at every day. The name on it read, "My only child." She swallowed, staring at it. Then she locked the phone. "No," she whispered to herself. "I will not call him, because calling him now would mean begging." And she had begged enough. She started walking, one slow step after another. The sun was hot. The road shimmered. Her slippers were thin. Dust entered her nose. She was thinking, how did it get here? How did her whole life turn into this? She kept walking, hoping she would meet a kind person. Someone who could give her transport money. Someone who could say, "Mama, take this, go home." Her eyes were watery, so the road looked blurry. And then she reached a busy junction. Cars honked. A Danfo bus shouted. A bike rider sped past. Madam Janet stood at the edge, trying to cross. She looked left. She looked right. But her head was heavy. Her mind was louder than the traffic. She stepped forward. A car horn blasted Pan. Madam Janet turned sharply, eyes wide. A black car was coming too fast. Too close. Too late. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. And the car did not stop. It swerved. Too late. There was a dull thud, heavy, final, and Madam Janet's body lifted slightly before falling back to the road. Her old bag slid away. One slipper spun and landed near the gutter. People screamed. A woman shouted, "Jesus!" Someone yelled, "Stop, stop!" But the black car only slowed for half a second, then drove off. Madam Janet lay still. Her eyes were open, staring at the bright Lagos sky like she was searching for something she never found. Blood spread slowly on the road, dark against the dust. A man rushed forward. Another knelt. Madam, can you hear me?" No answer. Someone checked her pulse and shook his head slowly. "She's breathing small, very small." They lifted her carefully. A Keka driver offered his seat. Someone else waved down a taxi. The road went quiet in that strange way it does when life is slipping out of someone. Inside the taxi, Madam Janet's chest rose once, then stopped. By the time they reached the hospital, the nurse looked at the time, then at the old woman's face. She didn't shout. She didn't panic. She only said softly, "She's gone." Madam Janet's phone was old, cracked screen, simple buttons. A nurse searched for emergency contact. There was only one number that mattered. Saved clearly. My only child. The nurse pressed call. It rang. Once. Twice. Samson picked on the third ring. Yes? He said, annoyed. Who is this? Good afternoon, the nurse said gently. Is this Mr. Samson? Yes. Who is calling? I'm calling from the hospital. We have a woman here, Madam Janet. She was hit by a car. Silence. Samson stood up slowly. What do you mean? He asked. Which Madam Janet? The nurse paused. Your mother, sir. The word mother landed hard. Samson's phone nearly slipped from his hand. No, he said quickly. That's not possible. She was just here. I'm sorry, the nurse continued. She passed away before arrival. The world tilted. Samson couldn't hear anything else. The office noise around him, traffic, horns, people talking faded. Sir? The nurse called. Sir, are you there? Samson swallowed. I'm coming, he said, voice breaking. Please, please don't do anything. I'm coming. The call ended. He stood there, frozen. Then he ran. The hospital. Samson arrived, sweating, breathless, tie gone, jacket half-buttoned. He pushed past people. My mother, he shouted. Where is my mother? A nurse pointed quietly. Samson walked into the small room and stopped. Madam Janet lay on the bed, covered to her chest. Still, too still. Her face looked peaceful in a way that scared him, like she had already forgiven everyone and moved on. Samson took one step, then another. Mama, he whispered. He touched her hand, cold. His knees gave way. He fell to the floor with a sound that was more pain than noise. No, 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 he cried. Mama, please wake up. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. The nurse looked away. Samson grabbed his head. She was just here, he said, shaking. I saw her this morning, and that was when the picture hit him fully. Her raised hands, her tears, Gabriella's foot, his laughter, the words she said, My God will judge between me and you. Samson screamed. A raw sound, not pride, not anger, just regret. Gabriella did not come to the hospital. When Samson called, she didn't pick. When he called again, she sent a message. I can't deal with drama right now. Drama. That was the word. Samson stared at the screen, numb. For the first time since he met her, something cracked inside him. Madam Janet was buried the next day. Simple, quiet, no big ceremony, just a small crowd, a borrowed coffin, a borrowed grave. Samson stood there, eyes swollen, clothes wrinkled, face empty. He cried like a child. Not loud, just constant. People whispered, That's her son? So this is how she ended? Some shook their heads. Some said nothing. The village priest said a short prayer. Earth to earth, dust to dust. And just like that, Madam Janet was gone. After the burial, Samson returned to Lagos alone. The house felt wrong. Too quiet. Too empty. The walls echoed. Gabriella didn't comfort him. Instead, she complained, Why are you walking around like this? People lose parents every day. Samson looked at her slowly. Something dark passed between them. Days turned to weeks. Samson applied for jobs. Good jobs. Great jobs. Top companies. Silence. Interviews cancelled. Emails rejected. Phone calls unanswered. One company finally replied, We regret to inform you. Another said, Your profile is impressive. But he was confused. He was qualified. He was known. Yet doors closed. One after another. Gabriella grew colder, sharper. You see? She said one night. I told you. Everything has spoiled. Samson didn't answer. He was tired, inside and out. One afternoon, Samson went out early again to look for work. He returned late. The gate was open. That was strange. Inside, the living room was bare. No sofa, no TV, no curtains. Even the fridge was gone. The bedroom was empty. The wardrobe empty. Gabriella was gone. She didn't leave a note. She took everything. Samson sat on the floor. The cold tiles touched his skin. He laughed, then cried, then laughed again. I lost my mother, he whispered, and I lost everything else too. His phone buzzed, an unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again, then again. Finally, he picked. Mr. Samson, a calm voice said, This is from Orex Holdings. We need to speak with you urgently about your mother, Madam Janet. Samson's heart skipped. My mother? Yes, the voice continued. There are documents that require your presence. Very important documents. Samson sat up slowly. What documents? He asked. There was a pause. Then the voice said something that made his chest tighten. Sir, your mother was not who you thought she was. Samson didn't speak for a long time. The phone was still pressed to his ear, but his mind was far away, somewhere between the empty living room and the small grave his mother now lay in. What do you mean? He finally asked. My mother was just a village woman. There was silence on the other end. Not confusion, not shock, calm. Then the voice said, slowly and clearly, Sir, Madam Janet was not just anything. Samson's throat went dry. Who are you? He asked. My name is Mr. Adeyemi, the man replied. I'm the legal compliance officer at Oryx Holdings Nigeria Limited. Your mother's name is on our ownership records. Samson laughed, a weak laugh. The kind that comes when something sounds too stupid to be true. You must be mistaken, he said. My mother sold pepper. She washed clothes. She couldn't even afford transport this morning. I understand this is difficult, Mr. Adeyemi said gently. But I assure you, there is no mistake. Samson stood up slowly, his knees shaking. You are telling me my mother owned a company? Yes, sir. Samson felt dizzy. What company? There was a pause. Then Mr. Adeyemi said the name, Oryx Holdings. The phone nearly fell from Samson's hand. That company? He stammered. The software and infrastructure firm. Yes. The one that rejected my bids? Samson whispered. Yes. The room felt too small. The walls pressed in. Samson sat down hard. No, he said. That's impossible. My mother never told me anything like that. She wasn't required to, Mr. Adeyemi replied. But we are now required to speak with you. Samson's heart started beating fast. Why now? He asked. Because Madam Janet passed away, the man said softly. And because the ownership transfer clause activates only after her death. Samson closed his eyes. The words hit him one by one. After her death. Not while she was alive. Not while she was suffering. After the walk to the office. 2 days later, Samson stood outside a tall glass building in Victoria Island. The sign read, Oryx Holdings. Big letters. Clean letters. The kind of building he had once dreamed of working in. He stared at it for a long time. People in suits walked past him, confident, busy. Samson adjusted his shirt. It was old now, faded at the collar. He suddenly felt small. Inside, the receptionist smiled politely. Good morning, how can I help you? My name is Samson, he said quietly. I was asked to come here. About Madam Janet. The receptionist's smile changed, just slightly. Please have a seat, sir. They've been expecting you. Expecting me. The words felt strange. Mr. Adeyemi came out minutes later, a tall man with calm eyes and a steady voice. Mr. Samson, he said, extending his hand. Samson shook it weakly. They walked down a quiet hallway into a meeting room. The room was large, bright. A long table in the center. On the table was a brown file, thick, heavy. Mr. Adeyemi gestured for Samson to sit. Samson sat. Then Mr. Adeyemi opened the file and slid a document across the table. At any time, he said, did your mother ever talk to you about a company she started many years ago? Samson stared at the paper. No, he said. Never. Mr. Adeyemi nodded. She founded Oryx Holdings 28 years ago, he said. With her late husband. Samson's chest tightened. My father? He asked. Pa Adekunle? Yes. Samson's head started spinning. My father was a mechanic, he said. He fixed generators. Mr. Adeyemi smiled faintly. He was also a brilliant engineer, he said. Self-taught, quiet, strategic. Samson looked down at the document again. There was his mother's name. Janet Adekunle. Under it, in bold letters, majority shareholder. Samson's hands trembled. This doesn't make sense, he said. Why would she hide this from me? Mr. Adeyemi leaned back slightly. She didn't hide it, he said. She protected it. Samson looked up. From who? Mr. Adeyemi hesitated. From you, he said. The words stung. Mr. Adeyemi sighed. Madam Janet believed wealth changes people. he said. She had seen it happen. She wanted to raise you without money shaping your heart. Samson swallowed hard. She wanted you to know struggle, he continued. Not because she hated you, but because she loved you. Samson felt something twist inside him. She paid for your education quietly, Mr. Adeyemi said. She used a trust fund, anonymous donations, scholarships you never knew were hers. Samson remembered the times fees were paid suddenly, the times money appeared without explanation. His chest burned. She also stepped back from the company when your father died, Mr. Adeyemi added. She let professionals run it. She remained silent. Samson's eyes filled. She watched you from a distance, the man continued. She followed your career, your achievements. Samson's voice cracked. Then why didn't she tell me, at least at the end? Mr. Adeyemi closed the file gently. Because of Gabriella, he said. Samson froze. She noticed changes in you, Mr. Adeyemi went on. Your tone, your distance, your pride. She feared that if you knew, it would become worse. Samson remembered his laughter, his folded arms, his silence. Shame crawled through him. There is something else, Mr. Adeyemi said quietly. Samson looked up. What? Mr. Adeyemi slid another envelope across the table. This was left for you, he said. To be opened only if you came here. Samson stared at it. It was old, brown, familiar. His fingers hovered. Is this? He whispered. Yes, Mr. Adeyemi said. It's a letter from your mother. Samson's hands shook as he picked it up. He stared at his mother's handwriting. Tears dropped onto the paper. He took a deep breath and opened it. Samson unfolded the paper slowly. His hands were shaking so badly, he had to place the letter on the table to steady himself. The handwriting was neat but tired. The kind of handwriting that came from someone who wrote carefully because strength was fading. He read, My son, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer here to disturb your peace. Samson's breath caught. I am sorry if my presence ever felt like a burden to you. That was never my intention. Everything I did because you were my only child, and loving you was the only thing I never failed at. His chest tightened. I wanted to tell you many things. About the company, about your father, about why we lived the way we did. But each time I looked at you, I asked myself one question. Would this knowledge make you kinder or harder? Tears blurred his vision, so I stayed quiet. I chose silence over pride. Samson wiped his face with the back of his hand. I watched you grow. I watched you struggle. I watched you succeed. And I watched you change. He paused. His heart thudded. The day you laughed while your wife raised her leg against me. That was the day I knew I made a mistake somewhere. Not in loving you, but in thinking love alone could protect your heart. Samson sucked in a sharp breath. I forgive you, my son, even before you ask. But forgiveness does not cancel consequence. The room felt cold. If life ever teaches you this lesson the hard way, I pray you will remember one thing. No title, no company, no woman will ever replace the love of a mother. Samson covered his mouth. Everything you will soon discover was never meant to reward you. It was meant to test you. His eyes dropped to the final lines. Be careful what you become when you finally have power. Your mother, Janet. The letter slipped from his fingers. Silence filled the room. Not peaceful silence, heavy silence. Mr. Adeyemi cleared his throat gently. There is one more thing you need to know, Mr. Samson. Samson didn't look up. What? He whispered. The company board has already been informed of Madam Janet's passing, Mr. Adeyemi said. And they are expecting you. Samson finally raised his head. Expecting me? For what? Mr. Adeyemi met his eyes. To step into her position. Samson's breath stopped. You mean? Yes, Mr. Adeyemi said calmly. As the legal owner, Samson's heart pounded. Before he could speak, Mr. Adeyemi added quietly, But there is a condition your mother placed. Samson swallowed. What condition? Mr. Adeyemi leaned forward. She requested that before anything is handed over, the truth about her death must come out. Samson's phone vibrated on the table. Unknown number. He stared at it, then answered. A shaky female voice came through. Samson, it's Gabriella. His jaw tightened. What do you want? He asked coldly. Her voice cracked. Please, she said. They're saying something terrible. They're saying your mother was someone important. Samson closed his eyes, and in that moment, He understood. The truth was no longer buried. And it was about to destroy everything. Samson stood before the board of Oryx Holdings with the letter still burning in his chest. The room was quiet, too quiet. Men and women in sharp suits watched him, not with pride, not with fear, but with judgment. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind that waits. Mr. Adeyemi cleared his throat. "Before ownership is formally transferred," he said, "Madam Janet requested one thing." Samson nodded. His voice was steady now. The truth. Screens lit up. Photos appeared. Hospital records. Police notes. Witness statements. A security camera clip froze on the screen. Madam Janet crossing the road. A black car. A sudden blur. Then another file. The car registration. The owner. A silence fell like a heavy cloth. Gabriella's name appeared. Not the driver. The owner. Samson felt the air leave his lungs. Mr. Adeyemi spoke softly. The vehicle was registered to Mrs. Gabriella Samson. It was driven by her cousin that morning. The board members shifted. Samson's hands clenched. "So," he said slowly, "my mother was kicked out of her son's house, walked into traffic, and the car that ended her life belonged to my wife." No one answered, because there was nothing left to say. Gabriella was arrested that evening, not for murder, but for negligence, obstruction, and attempted cover-up. When she saw Samson at the station, she broke down. "I didn't mean it," she cried. "I was angry. I didn't know she was crossing the road. I didn't know." Samson looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, he saw her clearly. "You didn't know," he said quietly, "because you never cared to know." He turned and walked away. The following week, Oryx Holdings made an announcement. The press gathered. Cameras flashed. Samson stood at the podium. He didn't smile. "My mother," he said, voice calm but heavy, "owned this company for decades. She lived like she had nothing. She died like she had nothing. But she was everything." He paused. "I failed her." The room was silent. "I will not sit in her seat yet," Samson continued. "First, I will step down from every benefit I don't deserve." Gasps. "I will start from the bottom. Learn what she protected. Learn humility. Learn respect." And he did. Months later, Samson stood alone by a simple grave. No cameras. No suits. Just him. "Mama," he whispered, kneeling. "I understand now. Too late, but I understand." The wind moved softly, and for the first time since she left, Samson cried without pride, without excuses, just a son, standing where love should have been protected. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.